You know what you need to do, but you just don't do it. You know that email needs sending. You know that conversation needs having. You know those boundaries need setting. You know the next step and it's obvious. And then you just don't do it. You delay, you distract yourself, you tell yourself you'll do it later. You wait until you feel clearer, more motivated, less tired, less pressured, more ready. And then, of course, the moment passes. If this happens to you, it can feel deeply frustrating because you're watching yourself act against your own knowledge. Part of you understands the situation perfectly. Another part still pulls you back into those same old responses. And we tend to assume that if we know what to do, we should just be able to do it. Knowledge feels as though it should create action. Insight feels as though it should create change. Understanding the pattern feels as though it should be enough to stop the pattern. But in real life, it just doesn't work like that. Your behavior doesn't begin at the point where you make a conscious decision. By the time you act, your system has already interpreted the situation, generated an emotional response, shifted your body state, and narrowed the range of choices that feel available to you. So when you avoid the thing you know you need to do, something has already happened underneath the surface. Your system may have read the action as being unsafe. It may have linked visibility with danger, success with pressure, rest with guilt, money with threat, or honesty with rejection. You may consciously want the outcome, but a deeper part of you protects you from what that outcome represents. And that protection can look like procrastination, overthinking, distraction, tiredness, confusion, emotional shutdown, or sudden urgency around something else. You don't always experience it as fear. Sometimes it feels completely reasonable. You tell yourself this isn't the right time. You need to prepare more. You should deal with another task first. You'll start properly tomorrow. And each individual decision can make sense in that moment. But over time, those decisions form your pattern. And this is why willpower eventually just loses. Willpower can push through resistance, certainly for a while. It can help you start a new routine, complete a task, or force yourself into action. Yet willpower uses effort, and effort becomes harder to sustain when the deeper system underneath the behavior just hasn't changed. If your body still feels unsafe, if the nervous system still expects threat, if identity still organizes itself around protection, then every new action has to fight against that internal structure. And that just becomes really exhausting. The deeper question is simple. What is that behavior protecting? Procrastination may be protecting you from criticism. Overthinking may be protecting you from just getting it wrong. People pleasing may be protecting you from rejection. Avoiding visibility may be protecting you from being judged. Staying small may be protecting you from the pressure of being seen clearly. Once you begin to see the protective strategy, the behaviors become much more understandable. That doesn't make it useful, of course. It doesn't mean you should let it run your life. It simply gives you a more accurate place to work from. Most people try to change their behavior directly. They set stronger goals. They create better plans. They download another productivity app. They give themselves another lecture about discipline. And that may certainly help briefly, especially when motivation is really high. And then life applies pressure. The old system activates once more and the same response returns. Real change begins earlier in the process. You need enough awareness to notice the pattern as it starts forming before it takes over completely. And that means noticing the first tightening in the body, the first line of thought, the first impulse to delay, the first emotional shift, the first moment where that old response starts to feel inevitable. And that's very different from insight.